Any stories shared in this podcast have had names and details changed for the confidentiality of clients. Any resemblance to someone real is coincidental. Hello everybody, thank you for joining us for today's video. Today we are without Shara, and we are going to talk about some men's mental health things, specifically about some of the barriers for men seeking treatment, men being in treatment, specifically like therapy, and not about like the stigma. I feel like we've talked about that before. Everyone else has talked about the stigma of it before, and so we're going to take a little bit of a different direction and talk about some of the things that we notice that are in the way of a lot of men wanting to do therapy or participate in treatment.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder why we do this when Shara's not here. We should like play video games or something.
Why we're filming it all.
It's like a man thing to do, right? Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of theories out there which are probably accurate about why men generally have kind of an aversion or a hesitancy when it comes to treatment. And I think most of us can like Google those if we don't know. But I almost wondered if today we put it in a little bit more of like layman's terms, right? Like, what is it that stops people from going to therapy? And maybe one of the things that I'll throw out there, again, this is maybe something men specific, since we are absent of Shara today. It'd be interesting to hear her opinion. But I think sometimes therapy gets a bad rap, stigma, but in the form of, I don't know that maybe us men understand exactly what therapy is. As we were talking about it earlier, I think you brought up a good point that therapy is kind of looked at as it's a place I can go and talk and be free with the things that I think, whereas maybe a blanket statement is that men are solution focused. And so it doesn't seem like, why would I go to therapy and talk about my feelings about this? Like, I'd rather just fix it.
I don't need to talk about it. I just need to change what I'm doing.
Yeah. So I thought you brought up a really good point. And I think that might be, there's a stigma behind therapy, but what that might look like for a man is, I don't need to go talk about this. I just need to get it done. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think it's culturally prevalent, this kind of, I don't know, a lot of the people I see on social media and things who talk about men and men's wellness things, a lot of it's like, get out of bed and go do it. You know, like, just pick yourself up and go out for the run and get up early and those kind of things. And ice baths are like obviously the huge one right now. And not that there's not validity to those things, but I don't think if you don't understand therapy and the therapeutic process, I can see why you'd think those are maybe opposed, because you're like, well, I'm seeing all these guys and they're like, yeah, just get up and go for a run and go exercise and be disciplined and those kind of things. And that doesn't say go sit on a therapist's couch and chat for an hour a week. But like I said, I think it's just a misunderstanding, because if therapy isn't solution focused, you're kind of in trouble. You gotta maybe solution focused is the wrong word, but if therapy isn't like leading you to accomplishing something and making changes, which is the same message, then that's not like great therapy in the first place anyways.
Yeah, that's a good point. One of the other things that we said that I think goes along with this, the way I've always viewed it, sometimes the word counseling is used interchangeably with therapy. Our licenses are as clinical therapists, but there are licenses of clinical counselors, right? And oftentimes, you know, when I'm talking with my friends who are guys, they're like, yeah, you need to go to counseling so that they can like fix you or tell you what to do. This is my belief. I don't know how you feel about this, but my belief is that a good counselor or a good therapist actually is not a very large advice giver, right? They're more of a listener with interjecting questions or reflective statements, but they're not generally telling people what to do. That's my opinion. And so sometimes I think about the idea of, if you think that going to counseling or going to therapy is sitting on a couch and just talking about how I feel about my work frustrations, although that can happen, it might be misconstrued as like, I have to go to therapy or counseling so that somebody can tell me what to do. And I actually don't think that that's the most effective kind of therapy, but I could see that totally being a barrier for a guy.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go pay someone to tell me what I already know I need to do.
Bingo.
Yeah. No, I think that's for sure part of it. Um, and again, it maybe is just like a misconception about good therapy because I agree. I think our job as therapists is not to give advice. It's to maybe provide different perspectives and to listen. But also like I feel like some of the most effective therapy I do is when someone comes and says, "Hey, this is what I want to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to be getting up early and doing a ice bath and go for a run or exercise." And then I can then like collaboratively we can say, "Okay, let's this is how we get there."
Mm-hmm.
Not me telling you what you should do and what your goals should be, how you what it's going to look like, but um, coming in with the client coming in with what they want, and then the therapist being like, "Help me take the small steps to get to that point." Does that make sense?
It does. And I think you're 100% right. I actually think therapy is more like of a principle based thing rather than like a concept or a principle based thing rather than telling people how to fix their lives. Um, yes, I will let you know that research shows that exercise is almost as effective as, like, it's right there in the same ballpark with medication interventions or therapy. Um, but getting yourself to exercise regularly can be hard. So we'll talk about those things, but if that's not on your plate, like, I'm not going to push that. Does that make sense? So I think the idea of this collaborative approach is actually true. One thing I shared with you a little bit earlier, um, the the gym where I go in the mornings, I have some buddies there who are older than me, but they're small business owners. And so I find myself a lot of times talking to them and expressing my frustrations with certain things about like business management or one that seems to be recurring is like payroll issues. Not that there's issues with payroll, but more like the taxes end of it. Um, and almost all of them are like, "Oh, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that because it flows smoothly for me. Here's what I do." And it's this collaborative approach that you talk about. They're not telling me that I need to change my accountant. They're not telling me that I need to go buy QuickBooks. They're not telling me that the way I'm doing it is wrong. It's this, "Oh yeah, oh yeah, I remember when I was at that stage of the game. This is what we currently do. That might be helpful for you." And it almost feels like that's how therapy should be, right? It's my goal, it's my complaint, my frustration, and I share that with somebody who then shares some options but doesn't tell me what I have to do. And to me, that feels like effective therapy. I just happen to do it in t-shirts and a short. Did I say that right? T-shirt and shorts. You know what I
Sure.
mean? But that's really what therapy should be like.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, yeah. And my other thought process was those are kind of the layman's terms, but I don't know if there's other thoughts that might be inhibitory for guys in treatment. We talk solution focused, we talk collaborative approach. There's a balance between, yes, we express feelings, but trying to actually be goal oriented and directed.
Yeah, yeah. I
Anything
think one of
else?
the first things you do in therapy is set goals and make a plan to get there, right? That's the process. Uh, so I don't know if I necessarily have like another barrier, but maybe if you're looking at uh, what is therapy actually like, my first recommendation would be just go try it, just go find out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also the like the schooling and the training and like the continuing education that we have to do is not about here is like the best way to live your life, right? They're all just evidence-based practices to help people accomplish their own goals. And
Yeah.
I think that's the maybe the last thing that comes to mind is like going to therapy isn't going to be someone explaining to you the best way to live your life. Like this is the client's therapy. This is their process, and so we help them work towards their goals using things that we have learned work for people through evidence-based practice, but not telling them like, look, you should do what I do. You should be like me. That would not be great therapy.
Perhaps one way to look at that would be like training and specialization. You'll probably hear me at times moan and complain that I pay a fee every year for a financial advisor. And to the tune of 1% is what I pay. And I've tinkered with the idea of like, that could end up being a lot of money in the long run. Like maybe I'll just manage it myself. And then I sit back and I think, I don't even know what stocks, mutual funds, bonds, the diversification to even pick. I guess I'll pay the 1%.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
And so the idea is, if you look at specialization, the training that we have or the things that we go through isn't to try and convince people to do their life differently. It's, we've received training on how do I stick to my goals? How do I create different moods? How do I manage stressors? Like that's our specialization. Just like I pay a financial advisor to spend a bunch of time studying the market. And so maybe there's this idea of like personal growth and accountability that can come from the therapeutic process.
I like that analogy. I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I don't want to pay the 1%. But if I sit down and think about, okay, I have $1,000. What am I going to buy? I have no clue.
Yeah.
I don't know what's a good price. So I just kind of like, hey, financial advisor guy, like, what should we buy? And he's always got ideas based on my goals.
Yeah.
If I tell him I want to retire in 5 years, he's like, good luck. But if I want to retire in 30 years, he's like, yeah, I've got a strategy for that.
Yeah. I'm on this kick lately of like, with my clients, in a longer way, saying basically the best thing for you to try of all these options we've talked about is the thing that you're actually going to do. And so if we talk about like, okay, you don't need to go to therapy, but maybe you want to go to the gym 5 days a week and have a set bedtime and get enough sleep and manage your emotions really well. It's great that you want to do all those things, just like you want to maybe manage your own money, but recognizing that having the honesty with yourself to be like, but I'm not doing those things, and I don't have the time or resources to go get another degree so you can learn how to watch the stock market and finances and all those things, and saying, yeah, I'll pay the 1%. I'll go talk to somebody who does have some of that knowledge and expertise to like get me there, rather than me just be like, I'll just do it myself eventually, which I'm guilty of all the time.
I was talking with my brother over the weekend, and he went in to see our financial advisor and was talking to him about our younger brothers. I have several brothers, and my brother told the financial advisor, I don't know what they're doing. He's using some like Acorn or something, right? And I think there's a lot of us out there that just do that. But the reality is there are people with expertise. There are people that have specializations in certain things. Therapy's specialization is not to tell you what to do, but rather it's what kinds of things can we implement to make you more effective at what you want.
Yeah.
Behavioral interventions, probably more common than anything.
Yeah. Provide you the tools to then, here's the tools, you build your life the way you want it.
Yep. Yeah, let me be a sounding board.
Yeah.
You know.
All right. Well, hopefully something in this video is helpful for you. If you have any thoughts or comments, we'd love to hear them. Or if you have any other ideas about why it's hard for you or men or whoever to get into therapy, we'd love to talk about it. So leave that below, and we'll see you on the next video.
Thanks. Bye.
If you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. We've got other videos for you to check out and more exciting things coming soon. So thank you.